It might be 30 degrees outside today in Melbourne, but there was a ton of heat in today's session. We talked about prices going up in history. What can we learn from that? Home loans, what can you do to get in front? Listings have doubled, but does that mean you should be worried? Tips to get into your first home before 30, and rental affordability. Surprise, surprise, it may become a big thing sooner than you think. Watch the rest of this video to find out more. What have I seen happening? The first one is interesting research from realestate.com about historical price growth. We'll break that down for you and what it means. Interest rates, they will go up at some point. What can you do? And auction listings, or just listings in general, have really started to ramp up. I'm going to tell you about the auction results in a moment. Some tips for those of you, as I said, that are at the start of your journey thinking it's impossible to get into the market. Let's run through some tips there and some examples. And then lastly, rental affordability. Those of you that have got a CBD apartment might think, what are you talking about? It's never been cheaper rents. But that's not there to last forever, and we'll break down those sort of statistics and what we've seen there. All right, so auction results. What did we see last weekend? It was a bumper weekend. So for those of you that might follow this, this is the first time in history that we have actually had more than 4,000 auctions in one weekend nationally. So we saw the total was 4,261 auctions for last weekend. Huge number. Sydney over 1,500 and Melbourne just under 2,000 auctions. So that is a huge number. But what do we see in terms of the results? Despite the doubling almost of auctions, we still got a clearance rate of over 70%. And the key markets, Sydney got 71% and Melbourne just under 69%. So still a really good, strong result. Just to give you an idea and to put this in a bit of context, not just in percentages, in terms of the number of transactions that happened in Sydney that were sold, 915 homes in one weekend. Melbourne, 1,105 homes in one weekend. So a really strong number, huge amount of homes going through for a total of just under 2,500 homes for the weekend. So that gives you an idea in terms of how strong it is. So sure, look, at 71%, it was a little bit lower nationally, the clearance rate, than we have been getting, but just the number of homes that cleared, that is more than we've had in terms of the total number of homes going to auction in most of this year. So really strong result. And just showing, despite all these extra listings, we're still seeing transactions go through. So I think that's important for those of you that are a little bit worried or wondering what's going to happen, that we're still seeing the number of sales coming through. All right, just to give a little bit more context here as well, these are the realestate.com number of sales transactions we see each week. So why this is good, as I just talked about before with the number of homes that were sold, this gives you an idea as to how many homes were sold, whether via auction, private sale, off the plan, whatever it is, whatever data they've got. Now, don't worry too much about how specific is the number, but this is really just showing you a trend that the red line is 2021, so this year, the blue line was last year, and the grey line was 2019. So you can see back in 2019, when there was no such thing as a pandemic, you can see how much higher the red line has been tracking, and we've been seeing a ton of sales going through. So that's really important, that with not only seeing record prices, there is still a huge depth to the market, which really just shows the strength and the large quantity of transactions that are underpinning these numbers in terms of price growth and clearance rates that we've been seeing. Unsurprising, when you break it down state by state, wherever we're seeing the biggest change year on year, obviously Victoria, 62% up in the terms of the number of sales in 2021 versus 2020. No surprise there. And pretty much right across the country, very strong growth in the number of transactions happening.